The pop is one of the most important things in wrestling. For bookers and writers, it can show them how their work is being received, and for performers, it's the adulation that they strive for. Naturally, the chances of a star getting an even better crowd reaction is a matter of timing. Pairing a key storyline moment with the perfect location creates atmospheres that transcend most others. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 biggest wrestling hometown pops ever. Number 10. TRISH Stratus in Toronto, Unforgiven 2006. You don't get a memorable pop without a strong emotion behind it. The reaction of a live crowd is the greatest demonstration of emotional investment in this soap opera with super kicks and spandex. TRISH Stratus is quite rightfully lauded as one of the most important women in sports entertainment history, and as such she had a connection with the WWE audience. In August 2006, longtime rival Lita kayfabe leaked Stratus's intentions to retire, which Stratus confirmed. The time was right for Trish, as in the next month the WWE were heading to Canada for the Unforgiven pay-per-view. There, Trish and Lita had their final showdown for the Women's Championship. Whilst they only had 11 minutes with which to work, the Toronto crowd was invested throughout. Ebbing and flowing, the bout ended with Trish cinching in a sharpshooter, prompting certainly the loudest cheer during a women's match to that point. Stratus left Toronto and the WWE for the time being, claiming the prize for the 7th time, and fans were truly stratisfied. Number 9. John Cena in Boston, Survivor Series 2008. Cena's ability to routinely come back from devastating injuries in half the predicted time or less is legendary. The first time this occurred was October 2007 with a torn pectoral muscle. Cena had been predicted to be out for 6 months to a year, returning instead in 3 months at the Royal Rumble to the sound of jaws hitting the floor. In August of 2008, Cena was put on the shelf with a herniated disc. Again, WWE's statement said that he'd be out of action for a year, so naturally he was back in less than 3 months at Survivor Series. Cena had already spent a few years dividing fans as he was catapulted into the position of the face of the brand. Here, however, in front of the red-hot Boston crowd, he was given a superhero's welcome. Survivor Series 2008 is remembered as an extremely lackluster event, but the highlight is certainly the adulation of the crowd for the super athlete winning his first ever World Heavyweight Championship. Number 8. TAZZ in New York City, Royal Rumble 2000. As the first man to instigate a tap-out in wrestling, the creator of the Extreme Championship Wrestling logo, and a wrestler of lesser stature in the era of giants, TAZZ truly has left his mark on the business. It's these things and his long-serving loyalty to Paul Heyman's counterculture that made his debut elsewhere such a big deal. TAZZ began his career in ECW before it was Extreme, under the original banner of Eastern Championship Wrestling. Over the course of 13 years, he became a fixture of the show, rising to the top of the card before finally looking for greener pastures at the turn of the millennium. In December 99, teasers of TAZZ's incoming to WWE were dropped through his trademark orange lighting and his logo appearing on the Tron. Royal Rumble in 2000 emanated from Madison Square Garden, just 30 minutes away from his home of Red Hook, Brooklyn. Here he filled the unannounced opponent slot for the oblivious heel Kurt Angle to a roaring crowd that got even louder when he tore the towel off of his head to stare down the Olympic gold medalist. The match was short, vicious, and shocking as the human suplex machine ended Angle's thus far undefeated streak in front of an elated home crowd. Number 7. Shawn Michaels in San Antonio, Royal Rumble 1997. Michaels' time with the belt in 1996 wasn't as big of a success as the WWE hoped. As such, Vince and company decided to have their top babyface drop the belt to Psycho Sid. This way he could return once more to the scrappy underdog role and eventually reclaim it. To make this even more special, this redemption would occur at the Royal Rumble in Michaels' home of San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio showed up in their droves with a reported attendance of 60,000 fans that were more than ready to lose their minds for the Heartbreak Kid. The Hebner special super slow-mo count created a pregnant tension that released a cacophony of crowd noise when Michaels scored the 3 count. Number 6. Sami Zayn in Montreal, SmackDown 2023. When Sami Zayn answered John Cena's United States title open challenge in 2015 in his home province, the ovation was massive. Furthermore, Zayn put in an incredible showing despite blowing out his shoulder soaking in the atmosphere before the bell. Sadly, in the years since then, his WWE career has tended to be rather up and down, as it can be in the company's mid-card. However, starting from April 2022, Zayn began to align himself with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, bringing us eventually to our most recent moment on this list. Sami Zayn on SmackDown in Montreal wasn't a revolutionary moment. This wasn't a debut, a return, or even a great match. He cut a simple promo that is after 5 minutes of constant crowd noise. However, it's in the wider context context. Just a few weeks previous, ZAYN had finally turned on his supposed allies by intervening on their attack on Kevin Owens, putting the target on himself. In the weeks leading up to this moment, he had minimal TV time, but the year-long story was so well built that it was all anyone could talk about. As such, walking out in front of a raucous Montreal crowd just 24 hours before Elimination Chamber and the biggest match of his career against Roman Reigns, ZAYN was vindicated. For a moment, the underdog from the underground was the hottest commodity in wrestling, and Montreal made sure he felt that way. Number 5. Steve Austin in Houston, WrestleMania 17. When talking about huge crowd reactions, something would be amiss without the mention of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin absolutely wasn't the only person of his era with a sort of front bumper at the start of his music, but the sound of glass shattering is so iconic. It is surely the reason almost all theme songs today in WWE start with something designed to immediately generate a reaction. Because, quite simply, that sound routinely sent shockwaves throughout audiences, with Austin's biggest hometown reaction coming at WrestleMania 17. As he stepped out for the night's main event, Austin's music was drowned out by the hometown Houston crowd reacting to the sound of breaking glass. The midpoint of the Rock and Austin WrestleMania trilogy is often called the best, but it's not just about match quality. The coming together of the two biggest stars in the world and the undeniably perfect pairing with Limp Bizkit's My Way video package made this the culmination of an era. Fans in the Astrodome audibly relished their part to play in wrestling history. Number 4. CM Punk, Money in the Bank 2011. Ever since the WWE kicked off the Attitude Era and gave themselves a counterculture slant, it's been hard to come back from. As such, fans who stick with the sport are also drawn to underdogs, dark horses, and alternatives. So when the company cements a clean-cut babyface like John Cena as their pride and joy, it's stars like CM Punk who find themselves as the voice of the voiceless. This was the perfect backdrop to the Summer of Punk 2011, a storyline which saw the Second City Saint cut through the pristine PG product of WWE to work-shoot a break in the story. Punk threatened to win the company's top prize and walk out the door with it, capturing the imagination of fans who were disillusioned with WWE's tired product. Best of all, he would do this in front of his home crowd of Chicago, who were 100% on Punk's side. This blurred the line of reality further and added an atmosphere that has made the match one of the best of its decade. The roar of the crowd from his first steps onto the stage to him skirting over the barricade to leave never lets up, exploding like a grenade when their hero claimed the belt. Number 3. The British Bulldog in London, SummerSlam 1992. The United Kingdom is a country with a starving wrestling audience who often know how to make their presence felt. Across the late 90s and early 2000s, UK fans were positively spoiled by today's standards with annual or even twice annual WWE pay-per-view events. As such, many UK fans have fond memories of the likes of Rebellion and the crime against English dictionaries everywhere, Insurrection. However, SummerSlam 1992 remains the high point of the company's events in Old Blighty. Like a domino effect, the WWE's growing popularity in the UK led to moving the event from the US to London. In turn, the excitement of the promotion's first major event outside of North America meant a huge crowd all too keen to fill out Wembley Stadium. And at the top of the card, Davey Boy Smith competed for the Intercontinental Championship. From Bulldog's entrance to the finish, the capacity crowd got hotter and hotter throughout a match that is the personal favourite of both workers and thousands of fans. When the 3 count finally came, Wembley erupted. Brilliantly, Smith's music doesn't play, instead his victory is marked with one of the loudest pops in WWE history. Number 2. The HART Foundation in Calgary, In Your House Canadian Stampede. It's one thing to get deafening cheers as an over babyface, but to get one of the biggest positive reactions of the year as a heel is something else entirely. WrestleMania 13 famously featured almost certainly the greatest double turn in the business. It swapped the alignment of Stone Cold, allowing him to begin his ascent to the top, and Bret Hart, whose act needed a refresh. Later that year, the Hitman adopted an anti-American persona as part of the HART Foundation stable. Every week, Hart would talk smack about the United States and bathe in the booze. However, he was still and would always be Canada's golden boy, and the WWE knew it. So when In Your House Canadian Stampede rolled around, they lent into it. A video package starts the event discussing the company's shades of grey characters and the paradox this show would represent. Embraced as hometown heroes, every member of the HART Foundation, Bret, Owen, Neidhart, Davey Boy and Pillman, was met with main eventer level cheers. The Hitman's entrance in particular was deafening, and and it continued into the 5 vs 5 tag match against various American superstars. Bret never badmouthed his home country, and this, and Calgary in particular being the home of the Hearts, meant that the crowd had no reason not to cheer so loud that the hard cam shook. And number 1, CM Punk in Chicago, AEW Rampage, the first dance. There are few wrestlers quite so evenly divisive as CM Punk. On the one hand, some fans simply can't see the appeal of the man's work and style and are turned off by his demeanour that can sometimes charitably be described as sour. But those that love him, and again Chicago has made their devotion to the voice of the voiceless known to such a degree that it was impossible not to include 2 specific moments on this list. After spectacularly burning his bridges with WWE and going into relative hiding, it felt like a CM Punk return would feasibly never happen. In 2021, the rumour mill began to turn, and even as AEW named an August edition of Rampage The First Dance, itself a Chicago reference to spell things out, there was still a certain degree of apprehension that it was actually happening. Cue a pop that was one part excitement and one part collective sigh of relief as the second City Saint finally walked onto the ramp. An emotional Punk and an equally emotional home crowd made that moment something incredibly special. It felt like time stopped as the audience hung on his every word. Though the future of the Chicago native is still a mystery, his return to wrestling has become one of the most unifying moments in history. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Which of these hometown pops is your favourite? And of course, let us know of any others that we didn't include. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Head over to whatculture.com for more content every day. I've been Cy for What Culture, and have a good week.